Hi, I'm Nina Melendez, and welcome to LinkedIn News Live, a show about the world of work and our place in it. A year ago today, Kabul fell to the Taliban after the U.S.'s chaotic withdrawal. American allies who are still in the country face an increasingly dangerous situation. But how to evacuate allies who remain in both Iraq and Afghanistan continues to be an issue, and it's not just evacuation that's needed, it's making sure they can contribute to society as new Americans once they're here. Joining us today are two people committed to that effort. I want to welcome Jeff Fanoff. He is the Director of Advocacy of No One Left Behind, which is an organization dedicated to getting U.S. interpreters and employees in Iraq and Afghanistan to safety through the Special Immigrant Visa Program, which otherwise known as SIV. Jeff is also a Marine Corps veteran. He received his bachelor's degree from Harvard University and a master's of public affairs from Princeton. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Also with us is Ali Sina, Resettlement Supervisor at International Rescue Committee. Ali is also a SIV ambassador with No One Left Behind and served as a senior legal advisor to the U.S. Department of State. Ali received his undergraduate degree in law and political science from Kabul University, and he has two master's degrees in international and European law and international economic law from the University of Toulouse, Capitole in France. Ali, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
So it's really great to have you both here. Thank you for making the time. Jeff, I want to start with you. It's been a year since the U.S. has left Afghanistan. Tell us a little bit about what the situation is like there on the ground right now.
Sure. A year after the U.S. withdrawal, the situation on the ground is pretty grim. No One Left Behind just conducted some internal polling of the more than 60,000 SIVs that are in our database, and we got over 6,000 responses back, each of those responses representing a family. And we see in overwhelming numbers that people are under incredible duress. In terms of economic security, more than 90% say they aren't able to earn a steady and reliable income to feed their family. When we ask if you feel safe in Afghanistan, only 4% report yes. And so we're seeing a situation on the ground that is increasingly deteriorating now that the U.S. has been gone for 12 months.
And a question for the both of you, why haven't more allies been evacuated? What's holding up those efforts? Ali, why don't you take it?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think there is, first of all, there is not security in Afghanistan, and not embassies out there active. Therefore, it's really difficult. And also, people, there is a slowdown in the process of having the visas from neighboring countries. That could be one of the more important challenges that SIVs are currently facing.
And right now, we're seeing an average of processing time for the special immigrant visa of 587 days. The legislative mandate for that program is that the government processes the visa in 9 months, but it's almost never met that requirement. And the 587 days of processing time, that's just on the government side. So it doesn't include the time it takes people to fill out the 14 steps of paperwork that are required to complete a special immigrant visa. These visas were created for those who worked alongside U.S. troops as interpreters, as contractors, and others. And we're seeing now that people are dying while they're waiting to get their visa. It's a really hard situation.
It's to me that sounds like bureaucracy. So bureaucracy is holding it up. It's not funding. It's not anything else. It's really just bureaucracy.
On the whole, it's an incredibly complex process. For each of those 14 steps, and Ali can certainly attest to this, there's a phone book's worth of paperwork that you have to fill out. And so much of it is bureaucracy. But beyond that, the U.S. government is only flying out 300 Afghans or so per week to be processed in Doha, then to make their way to the U.S. At that pace, with 160,000 SIVs left behind, it's going to take years or even decades before they complete getting our allies out.
And remind me again how many American allies are still in Afghanistan?
It's on the order of 160,000. Right now, the State Department has 74,000 plus principal applicants, and they see an average of 4 family members coming alongside. And so the most recent hard number they gave for those that they expect are eligible was 160,000. But I think Ali can speak just to what that process is like as someone who's been through it.
Yeah, definitely. From my own experience, I came in 2017. it was pretty much easy. Everything was easy for us to continue step by step and to provide all the documentation. There are certain checkup points that people should go through. All the SIV holders should go through. They have to provide the documentations, necessary documentations for the process. Also, there are security checkups. There are medical checkups that takes time. In a normal time, it takes up to 1 year to 2 years in some cases. But right now, because of the surge of SIVs in the queue, and also then not the U.S. The U.S. embassy within the country, it's a huge problem, and it takes a longer time because these checkups cannot be completed easily without bureaucracy. As you mentioned, bureaucracy is always there, but the main problem is the checkup. They have to go through certain checkup points in order to complete the process.
And is that difficult because Afghanistan is ruled by the Taliban now? And also, sorry, Jeff, I've got 2 points to this question. When you said that only 4% of those surveyed feel secure and safe, so the other 96% do they feel that they're concerned that the Taliban will find out that they had aided American efforts and that their lives will be at risk?
87% of the people that we polled said they had been directly threatened by the Taliban in the last 6 months. So if you put that into context, I think you see a situation on the ground where those who serve the American mission are in incredibly dire circumstances. When we're reporting that level of threat, and we hear every day about people who just go dark on comms that we don't hear from anymore. I think, as Ali mentioned, under normal times, you can process your visa, submit your paperwork, and wait for it. But waiting years and years to get a visa now while you're being threatened by the Taliban at that rate, it's incorrigible. Right. And it's something that I think is, a huge mark or something that this country needs to fix. America is better than that. And if we don't stand by our combat allies from the last 20 years of war in Afghanistan, then what sense of honor do we truly have? And what credibility do we have looking forward for future national security problems?
I want to pause the conversation very quickly and just say hi to some folks who are joining us from all over the world. We've got Jeremias from Costa Rica, Erkan from Turkey, Vivian from the Philippines, Albert from Utah. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat below and we'll get those answered. We have folks here from No One Left Behind, which is an organization committed to the success of wartime allies who have been displaced because of their association with Americans. Ali, how does one go from being a special immigrant visa holder to a citizen? And is that the ultimate goal for SIV holders?
Definitely, yes. Once a SIV holder is in the United States, within a month, they receive their green cards and also their social security cards. And after staying in the United States for 5 years, they are eligible to be a citizen. They can file for citizenship through the immigration department of resettlement agencies or any other lawyers, and then they can receive their citizenship. And of course, this is their goal because most of the SIVs, they felt unsafe in their countries, and when they are in need of a safer place to resettle and to continue their life and their family life out there. So this is their main goal of their life, to be in the United States as a citizen.
And only 7% have received their citizenship. That sounds low to me. Is there efforts to increasing that number? Like, why has that been difficult?
Currently, the processes is still ongoing. We are receiving immigrants, especially SIVs from Afghanistan, from from neighboring countries, but people mostly from Afghanistan, since the U.S. embassy is not active in the inside Afghanistan. Mostly from Pakistan, from Turkey, from Qatar, and from these countries we receive SIVs, and they are being resettled. The effort is still continuing, but the process is a little bit slow, as I mentioned, due to the surge of immigrants in the queue and the checkups. It's a little bit slow.
How easy is it for SIVs once they come to the United States to find work and become financially independent? Because I imagine that there's twofold, right? It's evacuating and then resettling.
It differs an immigrant to immigrant and SIV to SIV. For some SIVs who are well educated and have the language capacity, for them it's very easy to adjust their lifestyle as the US, and then to get self-sufficient and find an employment. There are always the efforts of resettlement agencies assisting them in finding jobs. But for some of the SIVs, unfortunately, there is always a challenge to find a job because they don't speak English, and most of the jobs that they want to have, they require English language. Despite that, the resettlement agencies are within 90 days of their arrival are assisting them to get employed and to have to become self-sufficient. Plus, there are some other non-profit organizations that can assist them to find jobs. In California, we have different non-profit organizations in which the clients can enroll and in order to receive to find jobs. There are job readiness courses. There are also a state that is assisting them, enrolling them in the programs to financially become self-sufficient.
One of the things
and
that
Jeff, yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that I'd love to see employers think more about is whether their hiring pipeline is tooled to accept refugees and special immigrant visa recipients. What we often find, especially with large companies, is that especially if they use an algorithmic process to go over initial resumes and do the initial vetting, is that unconventional resumes that come across where people have work experience outside of the US prior to coming here, they get weeded out early on in the process. And so we advocate with large hirers to really look at their processes and retool them so that they understand the population that we're working with. The people who come to the US on an SIV are incredible people. They've worked hard alongside US combat troops. They've been through incredible difficulty in getting here, and they thrive in that kind of uncertainty. They are excellent hires. But if your hiring process isn't built to accept them, then you're going to miss out on a really, really wonderful part of the workforce that's just resettling in the US and proud to be here.
That's perfect. That was my question to you is how can the private sector help? And what about, Jeff, do they face similar hurdles that, say, veterans face? I'm thinking particularly with access to healthcare, for example.
Sure, absolutely. And I think Ali can speak to some of this better than I can. But in terms of what veterans face, even in the hiring process, sometimes veterans have trouble articulating the skill sets that they learned in the military for a private sector workplace. And I think the same is true for SIVs. They have these incredible skill sets, but need to articulate them in the very particular manner of the American workplace. And that's something that we try to help with, and many other organizations are working on. But it requires a great deal of detail.
Ali, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. As Jeff mentioned, it has. I don't think that similar situation is available for SIVs as the veterans, original veterans here. But efforts are still continuing to have similar facilities for SIVs as well. From the time that they are entering the United States, they are eligible to receive state benefits. These benefits include medical, medical insurance. The call in California, we have CallWorks and CallFresh, which is cash aid and food stamps. So until they are employed, they are self-sufficient. They receive these benefits. The medical continues for a long time. Even if they are employed, there is a level that they should earn until they get disqualified for that. So the medical plan is always available for them, for all the immigrants, no matter if they are SIV or they are refugees.
I can't help but think about perhaps the issue of discrimination and whether that's an issue for SIVs who are resettled in the United States. Ali or Jeff, do you have any feedback on what that is like?
In my personal experience, I haven't faced any discrimination. Probably it
That's
might
so
be
great to hear.
it might be because I'm living in a diverse state, which is California. Different type of I see around me people from around the world, and I haven't faced anything. But I heard from some folks that they are facing in some other states, and unfortunately, this is one of the truths that we are facing.
Jeff, do you want to add to that at all, or anything that you've heard?
I think when we hear about that kind of discrimination against the SIV population, for me, it's so unacceptable, especially because so many of these people served alongside the U.S. in Afghanistan. These are people who should be treated like American heroes and should be welcomed as such. And when we hear about that, I think it's deeply upsetting, not just because it's in and of itself unacceptable, but it's for this group of people who served alongside our troops. And I think that's the message I'd love more Americans to hear, is that when you meet someone who's recently arrived from Afghanistan, there's a very high potential that they help serve the U.S. mission, that they fought alongside our troops and deserve every bit of recognition that the Americans who fought there deserve.
Yeah, risk their lives, risk their families' lives. What cities have the largest SIV communities at the moment?
I can answer this question. From my understanding, California, specifically Sacramento, has the large population of SIVs right now. We are receiving a lot of immigrants. After Sacramento, we have Virginia, and Virginia also has a lot of SIVs currently resettling there and still coming. We have the Texas in third, I don't know about other states, but mostly they are resettled in these three states.
Is there a reason why in those three states? Is there something that the state is doing to be more welcoming to SIV recipients, or why those areas specifically?
There are various reasons behind it. The number one is the benefits. California has a very good benefit system for SIVs and for all immigrant arrivals. Plus the weather. Before coming to the United States, SIVs just research about what state is good for them to stay. They like so number one always comes California in terms of the weather, and also in terms of diversity. One of the good thing in California is the diversity. There are different types of people, and they can adjust their life very well within the diversity, rather than being in a state that there's not enough people from around the world. There's also job opportunities, as I mentioned, for them. So there are several reasons, but one important reasons nowadays for Afghans are that there are large Afghan communities within the states that I mentioned. Therefore, they prefer to come and step by step, they gradually they adjust their life and resettle.
Speaking of all over the world, I want to say hi to some folks again. Edward from Montreal, Carlos from Colombia. Hello, welcome to the show. Monica from Egypt, Paul from Georgia, and Nisha from Florida. Jeff and Ali, when we think about this this issue and the failure of the United States to really take care of its allies right now, what do people most misunderstand about this? What would you say is the number one thing that either, that you just feel like people and maybe the country as a whole just really misunderstands about this? Jeff, let's start with you.
Sure. I think for me, it's a solvable problem. It's not an easy one, but it's a solvable problem, especially for those who are still left behind in Afghanistan. There are a couple of things that the government could do today to start to fix this. One is to increase throughput of evacuation and aid those who served alongside us in getting here. That can be done in a few ways, but looking at neighboring countries like Pakistan, looking at additional sort of transition points or transit centers like the one that's currently in Doha, and expanding those so that more people can get out. I think two, for those that reach Chief of Mission approval, which is sort of the definitive step in receiving your special immigrant visa, if we allow them to come to the U.S. under what's called categorical parole, then they could come to the U.S. tomorrow. They could fly commercial and then finish their SIV in safety instead of under the horrors of the Taliban. But I think finally, one thing that is really missing when we look at advocacy for SIVs is to make the program permanent, make it something that's enduring, because right now it has to be re-ratified every single year, and it needs a lot of fixes. So instead, we're working, and we work closely with Senator Jeanne Shaheen, Congressman Seth Moulton, and other members of Congress to try and fix the SIV program and make it permanent so that we can make sure we take care of America's allies abroad.
Why isn't it permanent?
I think the political haggling that goes into any sort of immigration bill meant that it was positioned to have to be re-ratified every year. The Iraqi SIV program has been stripped almost bare at this point. And while the Afghan SIV program does continue, we need the legislature to get it together and fix this program and make sure it endures. Because otherwise, we're going to find ourselves in this situation every time we venture into a conflict where we're failing those who work alongside of us. And for me, that's a national security issue. I have enough friends who are still active duty who need to be able to work with local partners when they go abroad, because that's what makes America effective, is our local allies. If we fail to maintain the credibility that we're going to take care of those who took care of us, it's going to make their jobs a lot harder.
Right. If the local population doesn't trust the Americans who arrive there, then that's absolutely a national security issue. Ali, what about you? What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about this issue?
I agree, completely agree with Jeff. Unfortunately, there is not enough centers for Afghans who are currently in Afghanistan left behind. They are, even if they are, some of them, they don't have the financial capability to go outside of Afghanistan and find a shelter for themselves. They are even displaced within the country. They had to leave their houses and go to another provinces to live there because they feel unsafe. Mostly they were threatened. A lot of them complained to us. They stated that Taliban came to their houses, searched their houses, and wanted them to be there. But luckily, they already left their houses, and their neighbors informed them that they are looking for them. So the important factor for me is one of the things that can support this mission is to structure some sort of centers and bases outside of Afghanistan, no matter where, but safe places for them, so that they feel safe. While they are in Afghanistan, they are still under Taliban regime and they don't feel safe. This is very important. Similar to Qatar, where they are right now, a lot of Afghan SIVs are there. If there should be one in Pakistan, in Tajikistan, they can clear their checkups out there, and then they can bring them here. That could be very, very effective. This part is really missing right now.
And before I let you go, Jeff, I'll direct this question to you. Tell us a little bit more about the hashtag Finish the Mission, and what your goal is with that.
Sure. So many of the Afghans who are applying for the special immigrant visa serve directly alongside Americans, either frontline civilians or aid workers or U.S. combat troops. And so this month, No One Left Behind is calling on those who served alongside the Afghans left behind to tell their story, And whether that's in a video form or to share a photo or just to write it up and send it out as a tweet or a LinkedIn post, to share your story and use the hashtag finish the mission to help make it clear to the American people and to our politicians that these are, our brothers in arms. These are folks who worked alongside us, and we're not done until we bring them all home.
Well, I appreciate the both of you, and I appreciate the hard work that you are putting into this. And thank you for being here and for helping us all understand what's happening right now.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
That was Ali Sina, Resettlement Supervisor at the International Rescue Committee, and Jeff Vaniff, Director of Advocacy for No One Left Behind. And thanks for everyone who joined the show today and put your comments in the stream. Sorry we couldn't get to too many of you guys here, but you can continue the conversation. You can check out the No One Left Behind website as well. And you can look at all of the other stories that we have to the right of your feed, or if you're on mobile, you just click into the search box. I'm Nina Melendez. Thanks so much for watching LinkedIn News Live. See you next week.